Welcome to Gutterville. This is Will Sanchez. My special guest tonight is Julia Khvasechko. I heard about Julia from a former guest, Kino. Over a year ago, Kino emails me, "Hey, get Julia on the show because she has quite a story." Wow, what a story. This is a story of true grit. Hang on, folks. I am thrilled to have Julia on the show. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Julia, let's get started by introducing yourself to our audience. For example, where were you born? Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
I was born in Belarus, and I came to New York in 1980.
Wait a minute, you just jumped a whole... What about your childhood in Belarus?
I was a little girl running around and playing with the snow in Belarus.
Oh, so you were very active as a child?
Yes.
Okay. What about college?
Marymount, Manhattan on the Upper East Side.
Oh, very good college. What was your major?
Finance and investments.
Excellent. Were you into physical activity when you were in college?
No.
You considered yourself at that time a couch potato?
Yes, I was a student through and through. I studied like crazy.
Okay. So what was your goals at that point in time?
Make money. As a young refugee without anything, we had to work really hard, and I had it instilled in me that the goal of life was to make money.
What about getting married, stuff like that?
Eventually.
Okay. But something happened in your 20s, something unexpectedly.
I was still in Marymount. I was still in school, and I was studying like crazy. I was a double major. And I started to get sick. I started to have seizures. Fall down on the floor, convulsing seizures. I was sent to the nurse, and then eventually I was sent to a neurologist. And it turned out that I had a brain tumor. And it was growing. And it had to be taken out quickly. Because if I didn't have it taken out, I was going to die. So I had brain surgery.
Which hospital?
I was treated at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And I had rehabilitation at Burke, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay.
Post-operatively, I had treatment to deal with the aftermath, and I had to relearn how to use my lower body because my tumor was in my focal point where my motor skills were. And then making money wasn't so important anymore.
So you were sort of reborn at that point.
I was given a second chance. I was told that probably not going to survive the surgery and be the same. And they were right, because I wasn't the same. I was reborn, refreshed, renewed, with a new perspective on life.
Okay. And what do you attribute that to? Was it your religious upbringing, or what influences that made you be reborn, rather than accept that you may be disabled for the rest of your life?
When you deal with your morbidity and your mortality at a very young age, it changes your perspective. It changes things that you once thought were important. They were no longer important. And the survivor in you comes out and takes over. And you don't care about the little things so much. So I spent a good 5-6 months learning how to use my lower body and just stand. And the first time I walked all the way to the bathroom by myself, unassisted, I was so happy. Little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You take for granted every day. I didn't have that opportunity anymore. And I was in my early 20s, so it's humbling.
And you haven't completed school at this point?
No. I was going to school and I was doing it side by side.
Okay. But that's been very difficult. And your family was here, though. So you had your parents supporting you?
I had good friends. I had my father.
Okay.
And I had my mother.
Okay.
And I survived the aftermath, and that I relearned how to stand, walk, and eventually run.
Why run?
It's good to have something to chase, something to focus on other than the big C and how it impacted your life. And I was in the hospital, and I was watching something outside that was happening. I had no idea what it was. It was the New York City Marathon. And it was a beautiful, clear day, And I wheeled my little self with my little drip over to the door where everyone was huddled and looking, and all these people were running by. I had no idea what they were doing, but I looked at them and they looked healthy. They looked happy. And I said, wow, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to do that. Especially after all the people that ran by, there was a group of people that got a lot more applause than everyone else. They were wearing Fred's team shirts. And someone standing next to me said, they're running for us because people for Fred's team actually raise money for Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And every time a runner with a Fred's team shirt went by, we all went, yay! And I watched for hours. And so I made a deal with God. I said, you get me out of this wheelchair, and I'm going to do that. I didn't know how long a marathon was. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I was going to get myself in that condition, able to walk and being strong enough to do what they were doing.
So you are a spiritual person then? And that helped you to uplift yourself?
Well, God kept her end of the bargain. I got myself out of my wheelchair, and so I had to keep my end of the bargain.
Okay. But obviously you don't jump into a marathon right away. Was there an intermediate step? There
were many steps. On TV, 2000, I learned about the longest distance you can walk to beat cancer. It was called the Avon Walk for Breast Cancer or something like that. And we walked from Bear Mountain to Manhattan. And I did it because I wanted to go as long as I could, as far as I could, to beat cancer.
Right.
And I enjoyed the walks. I raised a great deal of money and I had a sense of purpose. I was going to beat cancer with my feet. Along the way, I heard about something else. It was a different kind of an event, and this was a brain cancer event, which was similar to what I had, not breast cancer, and I said, I want to do that. Only this was a run. It was called the Race for Hope. And it was the only race in the country that supported, or raised money rather, for brain cancer. With the hundreds and hundreds of breast cancer events going on everywhere, I was shocked. There was only one, and I had to go to DC and do that one. I had to represent. And I had to learn how to run because it was called the Race for Hope. I trained for that 5K like it was the Olympics. I ran 1 mile, I ran 1 minute, I walked a minute. Oh my God, that was so hard. I ran 30 seconds, I walked 30 seconds. In about 3 months, I was finally able to run a whole 10 minutes.
Cool.
And I just wanted to go and do this 5K to represent, to wear my survivor shirt, and to go to the survivor tent and to talk to the other brain cancer survivors and brain tumor survivors. And when I completed that distance, I thought I had won the Olympics. It was such a huge achievement for me because I recall just a few years ago I couldn't walk at all.
So it took about 2 years?
I think 3 years.
3 years from the point of surgery to running the 5K. Amazing.
Walking for a couple of years and then running.
Right.
And at the 5K tent, survivor tent, I met a family. And they had lost their only son to a brain tumor. And we started talking, and it turns out that we had similar stories, and they told me they were putting together a team. And of course, I remember the marathon from watching it while I was in the hospital. I said, of course I want to do it. And then I went home and said, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Anyway, I had 5 months from the date of the 5K to the marathon.
Which was?
Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C.
The People's Marathon.
In fact, Michael Sr., the father, said, well, Oprah did it. If Oprah can do it, surely you can do it.
I guess that's the standard.
So I had 5 months, and I Googled everything I could, and I found Hal Higdon's training plan, and I set myself up, and I was just going to do a one-time marathon, just to do it, because I wanted to do it for Michael.
Okay.
The young boy who didn't survive his brain tumor, but I did.
Okay. Did that make you feel guilty somehow?
Yes, I had survivor guilt for sure.
Okay.
But I also knew that everything happens for a reason.
Okay.
And there's a reason that God spared me. And it was during that event, it was training for that event, and then physically crossing the finish line, that I realized what that reason was.
And that being?
I was meant to raise money, raise awareness, and raise people's spirits. And running allowed that to happen to me. And then it was my turn to go out and help others.
Excellent.
Survivorship comes with responsibility. And I take that seriously.
I can see that. And so That was marathon number one.
Number one. And that was going to be it. Just one marathon. I raised so much money. I've never really been so gung-ho about anything in my whole life.
Okay.
I rolled up my sleeves and I told everyone I was doing it.
Okay.
I held myself accountable. So if everyone knew I was doing it, I couldn't not do it.
Okay. So what happened next? What was the next goal?
I walked into work the next day and everyone applauded. And I was no longer cancer girl. I was runner girl. And I liked that title so much more.
Runner girl, okay.
And then that day, Runner Girl was born. I realized that I could raise more money, and the next charity I did was for the National Brain Tumor Foundation, and that was the LA Marathon 3 months later.
Wow, you jumped right back in.
And then 3 months later was marathon number 3, the San Francisco Marathon, also for the National Brain Tumor Society.
Okay.
And so on it went. Marathon number 4 was New York. Finally, I had to wait for the year to roll around, which I ran for Fred's team, of course. I fulfilled my promise to God, and I raised money for the hospital where I was treated, and that was the proudest day of my life ever.
Excellent.
I wore my Fred's team shirt, and I high-fived all the nurses and all the orderlies and everyone in the hospital. I spent 20 minutes at Fred's team, which is mile 16, just hugging and crying and being so happy.
Wow.
It was a very inspirational marathon.
Wow. Now, at that point, did you have a running coach, or how would you train
Fred's
yourself?
team.
What's that?
Fred's team.
Fred's team
provides a coach for you.
That's true.
Eventually, I had to stop running for charity because I was running so much that I was losing all my friends.
I guess they were getting donor fatigue.
Yes, here she comes again. Here's that runner girl coming to ask me to give you a little bit more money for a little bit more of your charity.
I guess you had to make new friends constantly to refresh the donor pool.
Well, the more people I told my story to, the more people I was able to inspire. And I felt if I annoyed some people, it was worth it to inspire some people who'd never even considered running before.
Okay. Because if a survivor brain tumor and do this, what excuse do you have?
Anyone can do it. I had to relearn how to walk. And here I was running a marathon. And raising funds allowed me to do that. Be annoying, that is.
Okay. And you were working now in the field of accounting and finance?
I was on a trading desk in a hedge fund.
Okay. Well, they must have been very proud to have you on their desk, doing the work and doing this other thing on the side.
Probably not.
Why not?
Because the field of finance, or I guess any field that is demanding, wants all of you all the time. They don't expect you to have a life outside of work.
Interesting. But how do you overcome that? Because obviously you're doing all this marathoning and enjoying it, so there's a conflict here.
Marathoning became my main purpose, became my main focal point. And I decided, the universe decided, to intervene. And after 14 years of finance and 100 marathons, I gave up finance and became a licensed massage therapist. I went back to school. 2008, my hedge fund closed. The universe said, now's your chance. And I went back and got another degree and passed my New York State boards and became a licensed massage therapist first, then a yoga teacher, and then a running coach.
Okay. Several months in between, obviously.
3 years.
3 years to
all
those three disciplines. So now you are all those three things.
What's your philosophy on running?
Well, it changes. At the beginning, it was for the pure enjoyment of being around other people. And then later, it became important to be physically fit. Because in my case, fitness meant freedom in so many different ways.
My case too.
And then it became something else. When I couldn't run, I discovered something extremely important. You probably heard this excuse. I can't run because I don't have the time. I discovered when I wasn't running, I had less time. I had more time. I had tons more time, spare time, when I did run, when I didn't run. So my philosophy is, run anyway. What is yours?
As an ultramarathoner, we have a little saying. Run when you can. Walk if you must. Crawl if you have to. Never stop. Keep going forward. Perpetual forward motion.
So very interesting.
Running showed me that I can do anything I want to do. And the I don't have time excuse is just, I don't want to say the wrong thing. It's like the dog ate my homework for adults. We have time for things we want to do. I don't have the time means I don't want to.
That's right.
We always make time for things that are important to us.
Okay, obviously running became important to you because you were raising awareness, because you were running always in the back of your mind. Running for those who cannot run.
I survived to do this. Yes.
Brain tumors primarily.
I went from being, from raising money and awareness to becoming a pacer, which is another way that I give back now and that I absolutely love.
Very different skill, a pacer.
Now I help others cross their own finish lines, whether it's a marathon or a half marathon. I allow them to see that they can do it, and together we can do it, and it takes the onus off of them if we're talking and we're just chatting away and I'm keeping track of the pace and they don't have to worry about it.
That's right. Is there a favorite pace for you?
4:30 is my comfort zone.
Your comfort zone. Conversational pace.
Conversational pace that you can keep, that I can keep for 50 miles.
Excellent. But at some point it sounds like you made a transition from marathoning to also the ultramarathon. What led you to pick up that challenge?
Well, the more marathons I've run, the easier it had become. It didn't get easier, but my body became so used to it that it was just like nothing. And I wanted to keep challenging myself. Because we get stale if we don't challenge ourselves. I wanted to keep growing. So a friend of mine, a fellow marathon maniac, talked me into running my first 50-miler. And after I ran the first 50-miler, I realized that there's no limit. I actually won my age group because I can do that 4:30 pace for a long distance.
Even for 50 miles.
And then the first 50-miler led to the second and so on. And eventually I decided I was going to run a 100-miler.
In fact, I think we have a belt buckle.
Yes, belt buckle.
Because you did the 100 miles in 24 hours or less?
Yes. The 100-mile was a challenge that I never thought in a million years that I could ever do, but I wanted to even put it out there just in case. Even if I didn't complete it, I wanted to see how far I can go.
And which one was it?
It was called Across the Years in Arizona.
Across the Years?
Across the Years, because it starts December 31st and it goes until January 1st.
So you spent New Year's running through darkness?
Yes.
With a group of strangers, or by yourself, or with a night lamp? And
with my husband.
With your husband? Ah, that's interesting. I think you said you met him at a marathon.
I met my husband at a marathon, yes.
And he's also a maniac.
He's a marathon maniac as well, and he was also a 50-stater. We were both running our own races on our own journeys, but our journeys we learned afterwards over a beer were very similar. We were really on the same journey. And it's funny how we met. It was called the Pine Line Trail Marathon in Wisconsin. It was my 10th state, and that is significant because it allowed me to enter into the 50 States Club, and I was so excited. And I won an age group award, and that was very exciting as well. And I said, I've come such a long way for this when I went to accept my award. And I meant metaphorically, because I had to relearn how to walk. Mm-hmm. And he meant physically. He said, no, I've come a long way for this. That's because he's from Alaska.
Physically, yes. That is a long way.
So we went to talk it over after the race, and we found out we had a great deal in common, and we planned the next marathon together.
And eventually he proposed?
He proposed at the finish line.
Of a marathon?
Of another marathon.
Were you surprised?
I was so surprised because I live in New York City, and he at the time lived in Alaska. And as much as I enjoyed his company and I enjoyed spending our marathons together, I didn't think it was going to get serious. Well, it was serious for me, but I didn't think it was going to get that serious.
So you were surprised when he knelt in front of you at the finish line?
We run together all the time, and when we cross the finish line, we have a habit of kissing and hugging, congratulating each other like we do. And all of a sudden, he was on the floor, and I said, "Oh, honey, are you hurt?" As a licensed massage therapist, I started to go, "Oh, is your Achilles okay? Is your knee okay?" And he said, "No, silly. Will you run the marathon of life with me?" He got on his knee, and he took out his ring, and I said, "Oh, I get it now." It took me a minute, but I figured it out. I thought he was hurt, honestly.
But
I
you
said
were there
yes.
to massage. It was heart was beating, full of joy.
I said yes, and the rest is, well, we got married. We planned it ahead of time that we were going to complete the 50 states together. Many 50-staters plan on finishing in Hawaii.
That's true.
And in fact, it's the most favorite of all the states where people finish.
I think you did that earlier this year.
Yes, January 19th.
And I think you got married on the course, right? Well, tell us why on the course and how did you plan
Because we
that?
met at a marathon, and because he proposed at a marathon, and because we live across the country from each other, the marathon is how we spend our time together. It was very significant to us. We started the marathon as regular people. We started in the dark because it was Hawaii. It started at 5 in the morning. At mile 18, we stopped where we had our family and friends who weren't running. Most of them were actually running with us. And a person to marry us, a wonderful person. The race director found us a beautiful site. He was right, it was a one-of-a-kind site. And we stopped and we had a ceremony. We said our I do's. With this run, I thee wed. And we continued and we crossed the finish line as husband and wife. I had a running wedding dress, and he had something made from ink and burn, a tux, a biking jersey.
So other runners could tell, okay, there's something special about these
I had a veil, and a wonderful friend who's a millinery who makes hats made it for me, and it was a special running outfit.
Well, you start very early to avoid that late
Yes,
sun.
we started in the dark to avoid the heat, but it was still quite warm.
That is amazing.
We just slowed down. We just ran a good minute slower than we normally run.
Ah.
And also we wanted to enjoy it. We wanted to revel in it. It was
Absolutely.
his 50th state. It was my 50th state. And it was our wedding. So it was a very special day.
So you probably didn't run the 4:30 pace at that point.
No.
Probably a little slower?
A little slower, yes.
Okay, to enjoy it. That sounds excellent. But now, I think you said you're going to be moving soon.
My husband transferred from Alaska base to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to be joining him at the end of next year in Oregon.
The end of 2015?
Mm-hmm.
So we have you in this area for another year.
Yes,
Because you are a licensed massage therapist,
I am.
a yoga teacher.
And my company is called Marathon Massage because 99% of the people I work on are marathoners.
What's the profile of an ideal client that you would like to see on your desk, or on your table, I should say?
A runner.
A runner.
It is my job to find your imbalances, to find where you are weak, and so we can strengthen those areas, and to see where you are holding all your tension, and to release those areas through myofascial stripping of your tension points. I can actually allow you to have freedom in your body again. As a runner, I know what runners need.
Mm-hmm.
And massage has proven to be, for me, the most effective tool. I see it over and over again, how it helps me run 30 marathons a year. And it helps my clients mitigate injuries. Before they even start, I can see where you're tense and where you're holding your tension and where it's going to become an injury if we don't work on this right now.
Okay. That's
I
excellent.
fix imbalances. Structural imbalances I can't, but muscular imbalances I can.
Okay. Is there a name to it? I know names like Swedish massage, deep tissue, and the different modalities that you use.
I borrow from every modality I've ever learned. It's pretty much condition specific, depending on what you need.
Okay.
I integrate everything I've ever been taught.
Okay. Well, massage recently was very interesting. I don't know if you saw it in the New York Times. A woman did an article. She was going with conventional psychotherapy, talking to psychiatrists or psychologists. And then one day she decided to get a massage. And the story she tells affected me. I said, wow.
It affected me deeply as well.
The power of the massage for this person was so revealing. The power of touch. Have you experienced a client where that person seemed to have been liberated by the way you were manipulating them?
I've experienced it personally myself when my massage therapist was working on me. Everything that's ever happened to you is stored in your body. Everything. The first time you fell off your bike, the first time you went for a run, everything. In fact, I just read an article recently. In our synovial fluids is where we store our memories. And sometimes when we have repetitive overuse injuries, we're just storing all this tension that we've been building up over all our lives. If you can release that area, you can actually let go of more than just physical things. You can let go of stressful things that you've been holding on to.
You are very, very gifted. Not only are you a pacer, but as a licensed massage therapist, you're bringing a different kind of freedom. And I think you will probably expand your repertoire to non-athletes that can use your healing hands. Listen, we're almost out of time. Is there anything you wanted to say to your audience? Because you only be here for one more year. This is your camera.
Thank you.
I think that says it all. Well, thank you for coming in. A heartfelt thank you is what it is, heartfelt.
I want to help people through the healing power of touch. I feel
And your
so
eyes are glistening.
lucky to do what I do. I love being a licensed massage therapist. I wish I found it in my 20s.